All right, let's go back to our agenda, which is on page 12.
Chair, if we can just quickly take the two decisions that we need to take in terms of our conversation we just had now. I can just read it to you. That will be for our colleagues at the reports, it's 2.1. And that is on page 7. So the resolution will read as follows: the board decides on the following: approval of the proposed amendments to point 3 on the mission statement will be done by circulation electronically. Currently, we have a problem. Len advised me quickly on that. We have a problem because we are not a quorum at our meeting. So what we will do is we will circulate it to all members with a tick box, something, and then ask them to please approve it so that we can move on. So we cannot approve it now. The only way is to send it to the members back and say approve it electronically. So we ask them to approve it electronically and send it back to us. Is that okay with everybody? Yes, we have to do it. And then the second one is the operational suggestion, presented by the members is referred to the EXCO for discussion and report back to the board. This is now about the regions. I made a list here of it. The regions, the departments, the responsibility of members themselves. Oh, that's all operational requirements. So we will, yes, research assistants, all those suggestions that we take that to the EXCO and come back with a report on that. Is that in order? Sure.
On the same note of taking responsibilities at our respective institutions, I thought as we were discussing this, that maybe we could emulate Stellenbosch, in the sense that at Stellenbosch there's a space dedicated for NetACT. And I'm thinking about Morija Seminary. What would happen? How would things work if we would have dedicated a certain space, even if it's just time, in one of our offices to say, we want to have a permanent NetACT space, so that as we plan our activities, we know that there is something to do with NetACT. I think that will be, so that even as we have our faculty meetings, NetACT is always featuring as one of the networks. NetACT business is also always featuring as part of our business. I think that could significantly change. We are going to try to do that in Morija from now on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I make a suggestion as well?
Okay.
On the practical working out of how this might be? Yes, I had a conversation with one of our partners today, just at tea break there, talking about how to make this actually work in practice. And one of the issues is in his library, he doesn't have any staff and he has a backlog of books to be catalogued. Now, in previous years, I would have said, well, that's easy. Speak to the Librarians Christian Fellowship in the UK and they'll send out a short-term team who will do the cataloguing of your backlog. But surely that's something that we can take on as a NetACT thing. I know some of our partners, unfortunately, most of them are partners who are not here today, so this will have to be developed a bit more before it becomes even an official proposal. But I know some of our partners have got multiple staff in their libraries. So how would it be if we put together, and this would chime in with what Maggie was saying last night about keeping the librarians more in contact with each other.
Yeah.
How would it be if we put together a team and some of our bigger partners said, yes, I agree to release one of my library staff for a month to go as part of a team to help, in this case, library X. But if it works, then it could become quite a regular thing. It's almost like lecturer exchange, but
Yes. Yes.
support rather than lecturing.
Yes. You see, when there was no internet, no electronic devices, this, library borrowing helped a lot in facilitating the transmission of information and learning. But today we have, both the hard copies, electronic. So it's good to really think of a way of enhancing. We are talking about enhancing learning. And if we can help even one institution, a member institution, to do that, it's progress. We may not be able to do it to all schools. Like we have said, there are organizations that are waiting for such opportunities, and we can take advantage of that. I also like the idea of a space, really putting a sign there, NetACT. It gives us a presence. It reminds us that we're a member of this organization. So it's really something that we can do. And then, I think the idea of really thinking, because I know some of our institutions are giving scholarships. And we have been told that don't give those scholarships free. Make them work scholarship. Because you think they are free, but they are not free. Find a way of engaging that student to do something for the school so that it becomes a blessing to you. So, and if we are doing that, it's already part of our culture. It becomes part of our culture. Let's build it into NetACT culture and see how that can help us. And maybe what we could do with this to make this work, to not just make it a conversation that we just have here and that is it until another meeting. Let's set a timeline that we want to hear a report of what has happened. I think we should find a way of saying, look, from now to the end of perhaps middle of next year, we want to hear if something has happened in this area. If you can report something, so that puts us to work, rather than just leaving it open-ended. Maybe we'll take this to an expo. We take a decision and we give ourselves a timeline of this, because some of these things we have to tag a timeline to them. Let's welcome our brother, our uncle, our collaborative partner in the ministry of the gospel of Christ. Thank you, sir, for visiting with us. For joining us. Not visiting. You are not a visitor. This is you here. I actually visited. You are busy talking with your people, and I decided, well, I shouldn't interrupt. So we are glad we are here. Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you, colleagues. Let's move on our agenda. So we will be at, if you turn to, we will skip the financials because Hannes just took everybody now for the PCR tests. So he's not here and he's got the financial statements with him. I'm not into that. If we can skip to and then jump to 3.2 on page 12. 3.2 on page 12. The issue of membership fees, and we've got two. You will see that there's two proposals on the table. The first one is the board expressed its sincere thanks and appreciation to the Barnabas Fund because they have, for the past 2 years, has helped us through COVID by paying on behalf of our members the membership fees for NetACT. That made possible because maybe they just elaborate a little bit on that for clarification, Chair. As I mentioned earlier, the office is funded only through the contributions of the membership fees and the project money. So that's all income that the office has got. So there's no other income streams. And then also, Weidenhof House. But for the last 2 years, Weidenhof House had very few students. So we had outflow, but no inflow. But since last year, it started to change. 2020 and 2021 was bad. 2022, the university started accepting students back on campus. So that changed. It was then when the Angolan student was coming in to help us as well. So that is sort of now picking up again. So that's only three streams of income that we have. The expenses of the office is much focused around the upkeep of the internet portal, our servers, that registrations. It's just at Fraser's desk. So he does that and pay for that annually, monthly. That's quite a substantial amount. Then the stipend for the office person, that's for Hannes at the moment. And yeah, then there's some other expenses here and there which we cover. Let me stop there. Then the second one there you will see is that we discussed the membership fees for 2022 and 2023. So the question at the board this morning is what are we going to do? Currently it varies from it depends on this is a little small formula which we use, but it varies from between $100 to $150 to $200. The 4 big institutions in South Africa, our agreement with them is that they pay a lot because they can afford a lot. So they pay around about 8,000 and they are not exempted from paying. And I would like to, maybe we should put another bullet in there, number 2, that we say thank you to them because all 4 of them, Barnabas paid for the outside ones, but the 4 South African ones, they really paid through COVID. They paid their membership fees. So the members who are here from, please, Manirash, convey our thanks to Pretoria, Stellenbosch, Reggie, Rantua at Free State, and Himi Goede at NVE. We've got very good relationship with the deans of that 4 institutions, and they paid their membership fees, which is around about 8,000 rands, which they pay per year, per annum. So we are grateful for that. So, Chair, maybe we can just discuss the membership fees. Are we going to deal with it, and how are we going to get it in?
Yeah, as part of what you have said, Nico, we really want to thank Barnabas. Used to be fund, but Barnabas Aid has changed. So, I mean, this is partnership. This is the work of God. They are not doing anything different from what is their vision and their love for God and love for the continent, love for the world. But it has to take somebody that understands that to do what we are doing. You are an extension of Christ's love to us. So we want to really thank you on behalf of all of us that have enjoyed this. And also we want to thank the institutions from South Africa that have really been doing this willingly without complaint. So we really, truly want to thank you. While he's here, I don't know how long you are going to stay with us. We need to begin to put things together. We want to really give good news to our partners. I mean, to our, to our members of NetACT. I think we have, from this meeting together that we have had Monday and Wednesday, I can see light. I can see hope. Our coming together, the collaborative partnership that is happening between Barnabas Aid and NetACT is going to give birth to something that will really present hope in this age of uncertainty, despair, hopelessness, and all of that. So we will come back to you, sir, with some specific outline of things we could continue to do together. More so that it was only few of us that were here. A lot of our members couldn't join, were not allowed to join online because of some of the security matters that were being discussed. But there are things that are not of security threat or challenge or concern. We will work with him to see how we can come back to you for a discussion. Your academic programs, your social work, the community security, and all of these things. Our schools are desperately in need of those things. So we need to package them in a way that we could say, okay, here is something that can continue to build this relationship better than what it is today. So I'm glad we are here. And Nico perhaps is going to have some lunch with you today. I wish I could be there also, but it doesn't matter. I don't need to be there. The two of you can discuss whatever you discuss. We are going to come back to Barnabas or something. Yeah. Yes, please.
Sorry, just wait. We need to get you on the mic for our online colleagues. They don't hear. Thank you. Thank you.
May I, Mr. Chairman, it's an immense honor and privilege to be here with the NetACT community and to be a part of it. And we share with you your concerns and your burdens. We want you to know that we are in this with you to the end. I see several areas which we could assist with depending on the need. I think in terms of the membership fees, should there be institutions again that are unable to have enough, then if you could be in touch with us through Nico, and we will see what again we can do this year. I think secondly, we all realize the vital importance of theological education and our schools. We cannot afford to lose them. And therefore, if restructuring is going to be needed, if for areas of development, etc., again, we want to be involved with that and in the programs that will be developed. So again, please be in touch with us, and we will be working very closely with Nico. But I have a third area which I've discussed with Nico, and I'm wondering whether you could look at this. When we were in Kenya 2 years ago or 4, we launched the MTH program with Pretoria University. And the first cohort went well, but then we couldn't get any more students for the MTH. And our MTH in Pretoria is different from Cameroon because it's much more theologically focused. And the vision is that in all the schools where we have an Islamics person, we will have an Islamics department and resource that. So looking at 2023, at this time, we don't have any students on the MTH course. But supposing we could have 10 or 15 or so, which we would help to give bursaries to and to facilitate that, then this again could be one of the key areas in helping the church to deal with this real problem that we have on our hands. So may I ask that if you have space in your agenda to discuss this, and I've discussed it with Nico, and we're very, very open to having in 2023 an MTH course. We have the syllabus, we have everything in place, and we can assist with bursaries. But what we do need are students. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe if I can just say, we will discuss that. Thank you, Patrick. At 3.6 on our agenda, I think we will probably do that in the next two points from now. 3.6 on the agenda is on scholarships. So we will include that discussion quickly at 3.2, 3.6.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And thank you very much for Patrick for that generous offer. I think it's definitely something we should seriously consider. Regarding the membership fees, we have, even before the onset of COVID, we haven't had an increase in membership fees for a couple of years. So it is really quite low, although coming out of COVID, I know that most institutions are struggling. So my suggestion would be that that we keep the membership fees as it is, on the levels that it is, but do send out a request for members to pay their membership fees, and in cases where it can be motivated why it is impossible to do that, then to leave it up to the discretion of the exco to either assist or try to find a system to cover those fees.
Right. Yes. Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to put a little nuance on what's being said. Again, to echo the thanks that have been made to Dr. Sookhdeo and the Barnabas Fund, but to say, people don't need to see me. They
would like to see that tie of yours.
They've seen my face before. But just to say, we've in a couple of our discussions, we've touched on the fact that people don't value what they don't pay for. So I would like to suggest that we set a cap on the assistance that is given, whether that be 80% or 90%, but we still expect all our members to pay at least a token fee. Yeah.
Sure, I would really support that. And coming back to what David said, and you will also remember our discussion in Nairobi in terms of the value of theological education, that we sit, unfortunately, in African theological education circles with a situation where people do not value theological education. I would support that from Fraser, that we at least that they should try to pay something, even if it's $10, $20, $50. It's not that much, and then we can subsidize the rest through maybe a request to Barnabas.
Thank you for that. I think another thing we need to begin to think carefully is that we are looking inward more than outward now. What I mean by that is when we look at the situation in the world, no economy is where it was. All the economies of the world are suffering after COVID. Even those that were doing well, they are suffering now, which means that even those donors we are thinking of outside are really going to have it very difficult doing anything for us. So we need to begin to develop ideas within the continent of how to cushion the effects of that. I don't know what that will mean, but I'm just thinking that as a network, we need to begin to think of how to help institutions sustain themselves. You know, what do we do to sustain ourselves?
Maniraj, there with the back.
I think I caught the gist of the discussion regarding the membership fees. And I'm just wondering, just a suggestion to think about is some of our institutions that are not able to pay the full fees, and with the kind sponsorship of Patrick and Barnabas Aid, whether those institutions not apply and say, listen, this is how much we can afford. Can you assist us with the, in other words, we make that contribution from the Barnabas Aid almost as a, not a bursary, what do you call it, subsidy, in that sense, to help the institutions, because I think we must not take away the responsibility from the institutions to be responsible for paying. We don't want to create a scenario where it's, it's okay, they'll pay for me, it's fine. I think if we cannot pay, let's draft and say, listen, we're applying for a subsidy because we cannot pay for this reason. Then it gives us a responsibility as an institution. I am responsible for that money, but I can't manage because of this reason. Can you assist us? Then Barnabas, okay, we'll fill in the balance, but something needs to be done. Chair, can I just, while I'm still on the podium, I just had a chat with Patrick now. This has nothing to do with the fees, but it has to do with the APT. Can I talk on that very quickly? I asked, Gavin is right here now. I made a suggestion to the team. Len mentioned that we can download that book for £8. Yeah. Having a chat now, I don't know if you want to just fill in on how it's going to be done with the library. Okay, just a suggestion.
What we'll do is that we'll get the Pusey Library to purchase copies, and then any of your institutions can become a student and you've got it. You can then use it through the platforms because we pay the license fee, the library license fee to have it, to make it accessible.
And that's an ebook that's going to be downloaded. Okay. So I think.
Can I just ask Gavin? You just send me that details how that process will work. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Maniraj.
So the idea is to really download it from that website, which I spoke to Patrick about. And remember, Barnabas, OCRPL has a lot of postgraduates. And if each one of them has access to that, we have a greater infiltration into Africa.
Every student has access.
Wow. Thank you very much. Okay, this is from Patrick. Wonderful. So Patrick, yes. Thank you so much. Let him know that we are deeply grateful.
Right, colleagues, can I read the membership fee decision for us? Chair, can I go ahead? Yes. Okay, so the resolution is as follows. The board expresses its sincere thanks and appreciation to the Barnabas Fund for the paying of the membership fees on behalf of our members for the past 2 years. The board expresses its sincere thanks and appreciation to the 4 South African universities for paying their membership fees during the COVID-19 period. The board decides that the membership fees for 2022-23 will remain on the same amounts as calculated per our formula. So there's a formula which we calculated on. And then institutions who have problems with membership fees can apply through the office for assistance. Or just a subsidy, for a subsidy. Yeah, sorry. You can apply. Yes, you can.
Through the chair, it's normally calculated by the number of students, by the strength of the school. So if you just make a flat rate, I don't know how that will match in the calculations.
Yeah, but the percentage will work.
The percentage will work. If they have 100 students, then we are using our formula. We give 50% of them. There's a subsidy for the rest. Yes. Yeah.
Right. What's the percentage? 50%. So yeah,
institution, I'm speaking on behalf of my own institution. I think that the South African institutions will be willing again to pay the full, the full fee.
Yeah. Sorry, colleagues, but it excludes you.
May I suggest that NetACT writes a letter to these institutions, a letter expressing our gratitude for this 100% support. Let the board, write a letter to these institutions saying, thank you. It's not just enough to send them.
Yeah. Yeah, Chair, what we will do now is just after this meeting, all these expressions of thanks and appreciation, all that will go into letters to all the different places we say thank you to. So it will read then, institutions who have problems with membership fees can apply to the office for a subsidy, not amounting to more than 50% of their, I will frame it in that. Yeah, that's standard procedure. Yeah. Chair, then we can move on to yes, no. 3 point, we will just skip 3.5, 3.3, 3.4, communication was dealt with. Lecture exchange 3.5. Not yet, no, we need to discuss that. 3.5. 3.5, the board, just keep an eye on the time. 3.5, you see there's a long explanation on the whole practice of lecture exchange. So the proposal is the board discuss on how to proceed with lecture exchange and give guidelines as to what the role of the office will be. But if we accept, if the constitutional change then is accepted, which we proposed, then actually it will be okay from now on that we just encourage our members to do lecture exchange, and if they need help from the office, we can assist on facilitating, not facilitating, but in terms of who wants what and who's available. But the actual exchange is onto the members, not so much onto the office. Because the problem is if it becomes an office thing, we need to budget for it, and we need to find money for this project. There is no money. We can't find it from the office money. It needs to be a project. So we need to go and find someone who can help then or pay for this, for the flying. In the past, the office paid for the flying, but I mean, we've got currently in that account, I think it's around about 10,000 rands. So who's gonna go where? That's the question. Because we've got many requests from our teaching colleagues who want to go, but we don't have money to send them. So that's our problem in the office. So help us with that.
Let me just say something here. The vice is teaching courses at the seminary in Jos from Kenya. That's lecturer exchange, isn't it? I mean, in these days of online that COVID has brought to us, it is not, I don't think it is necessary for somebody to move to Kenya to teach. They can do that online. But also doing that online will mean that we may need to provide some facility for the person, like data, making sure that they have enough data to do what they are doing. Now, it's possible that we can apply for some grants for that. I don't want us to just, this is part of what will benefit all of us. The other level of lecturers exchange is student supervision, dissertation supervision, which if we work with Barnabas Aid, they can help us with that. I believe they can help us with an aspect of that. It could be one of the proposals we can present. You are now supervising one of the students who didn't know who you are, but now I saw you sitting with him. That kind of a thing. Should they just be supervising their own students, or we can get help? Right now, my institution has one of your faculty that is supervising a student for us. Stellenbosch is supervising a student for us. This is how we strengthen those programs. I know Kogoro will love that. I know TCNN will love that. I know Obomosho will love that. You know, things like that. I'm just mentioning schools that I know, but I know that even Malawi will need something like that, so that we have the resources we are talking about. There is intellectual resources. There are intellectual resources that we can provide that will actually help our institutions. So we need to look at this lecturer exchange at different levels. Let me put it that way. What are the levels? You know, teaching, you know, online supervision of students, helping with the supervision of students, or providing consultancy for something. All of these are things that we can begin to look at. So maybe we need to be more specific and clear about what we mean by lecturers exchange. Yes.
I think what used to happen, Len can testify to that, and my view. If an institution is in need of a teacher in a specifically specialized area that they don't have, then they apply through NetACT, and then NetACT sends a person to teach in that particular area. But like you said, now with online, it's very possible to do that. But lecturer exchange mainly was facilitated with my office with the lecture from church to help cover up specialized courses that the school does not have.
Chair, if I can come in on that, Fraser, I think with online education now and with the facility that we have on the platform, we can, we can put courses on to our platform on the NIP, which can be taught on an online course. So we have that facility in place. So that's the conversation that needs to take place between the institutions themselves. If a Kenyan institution has got that course, but the Zambian institution wants to present that course, that's the negotiation. Can we tap into that resources of yours? And can we put it on, maybe say, for instance, on the NetACT platform, and our students can attend that, and we accredit it in that regard. Fraser, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, Nico and I are two minds with but a single thought on this one. What I was going to say was two things. One, yes, we have the platform. So it's not just a case of lecture exchange, but you can have all the tools that are on the learning platform. So you can have interactive quizzes, whatever learning tools you can think of, assignments and so on. You know, and also it's not with the online capabilities, it's not just lecturer from institution A goes to institution B. It's lecturer from institution A can go to institutions B, C, D, E, and F at the same time. Yeah.
Let us also not forget that we have already talked about the need for us to get CV updated for information. If we need somebody to supervise a student dissertation in an area, we'll go to that. We say, okay, this person can help, and ask the person, would they be willing to help? Yeah.
Chair, I would like to, on the same note, I would like to really place our special request for the Murija Theological Seminary. We are undergoing accreditation process. And among other things, we need to have qualified lecturers in all relevant fields. At the moment, we have just set up a computer lab with which Fraser will come and train all of us in the use of that. So I think what we are saying now is a response to our need. But I think we would need to have maybe volunteers as we leave here. I'm just asking colleagues who can I'll say the major areas in which we are lacking is systematic theology and church history. And in biblical languages, Hebrew. So if we could have help, we would really appreciate, because in the next few, we are actually now compiling the CVs like you said. We are compiling the CVs for the accreditation process. Thank you.
Do you know that this is also a blessing to our lecturers? To see in your CV that you are providing lectures at an institution B or C, that you are part of those who are helping there. It's a blessing to you as a person, because you are building a CV that has some international or continental, weight. Yeah. So I think lecturers will be excited about this. I see it with the universities right now that I have opportunity of, reviewing proposals of our universities in Nigeria. All the universities that are submitting proposals for that, we expect them to show where they are coming from, so that we know that they are qualified to do the kind of project they want to do. And I see that a lot. You see them in that school, in that university, in that. They are doing that to enhance their CVs. So why can't we do that for our people? So that they are not just having these CVs that are just localized. And instead of running to institutions in Europe and other places, let's see how that there's synergy that is being built around here and benefiting us. Anyway.
Online colleagues want to participate in this one? I think I've jotted down one or two things here for resolution. I think the first one is that the proposed changes to the Constitution will bring about that members are responsible to arrange lecture exchange, because we are promoting it. So we ask our members to do that. The second one is that the board reiterates that there's various ways in how lecture exchange can be facilitated. There's not just one way in terms of physical, literally physical appearances there. And then the third one is the board urges members to update their faculty CVs with the office and request that a page be created on the NIP where these can be viewed. Fraser, is that a possibility? Can we do that? Can there a page be created on the NIP where all the CVs are hosted?
Yeah.
And people and members can have access to that so they can see what's available.
Yes.
And then they can contact.
Yeah.
That's how we promote and help and facilitate from the office.
There's a data protection issue, but so it would have to be, it wouldn't be on the open web. No. It would have to be behind some sort of login, but yes.
Yeah. But we can put it behind the login and it can be there. Yeah, because that's also in South Africa, it's POPIA Act, so we can't, people can't have full disclosure of it, but you can access it through a specific way. David.
Please, I wish to react on the first point that you mentioned in the proposals that you've recorded. Like you just said, probably I may need somebody in the area of church history, but I will not know where that person is found. So I think we should still accept that the office could do that on behalf of the institutions that are express the need. Then the office can advertise and one person can pick it from somewhere in the absence of that, if we leave it at the level of institutions, I may have a need, but I will not know where to express, which institution to express. But if we have that platform where the office can advertise it, express our various needs, and we get it, it will be better.
Yes. So just to add about information also, we have an organization called Theologians Without Borders. Theologians Without Borders also facilitate faculty, but you need to pay a fee. Once you pay that once, it's kind of a lifetime fee, just $100. But you can access scholars from different parts of the world, from different fields, and they teach for you for free online. There are some who would actually want to come, they pay their expenses to come. So you can also probably, how we can put that, Theologians Without Borders, it's also a very great tool that, I mean, our university has used, and we have benefited actually from systematic theology and other fields that we have. Thank you.
Can I also recommend that any of our partners who don't already do so, that you encourage your lecturers to go on to academia.edu, which has become essentially an international clearinghouse of how to find an academic, not just in a general discipline, but in a specific field that you're looking for.
Yes, sir.
Someone online too. Who is that? Beatrice. Okay. Let's first go to Manirash, and then we'll go to Beatrice.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also wondering whether one should not, I think of our own faculty. We are really not overstaffed, we're more understaffed for the amount of work that we have to do, really considerable amount of work. In as much as I would love to help my other colleagues, brothers and sisters in the different faculties, sometimes it's difficult for me to get a furlough or a leave to go and lecture somewhere else. And I'm just wondering whether one should not consider approaching some of our emeritus scholars. They will be more than willing to engage in this manner. And not to say I won't, I will, because I think I'm going to accept an invitation to Hefsiba College in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique. But maybe think of approaching our emeritus scholars.
Thank you for that. We'll go to Beatrice.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Chair, for all of the discussions, and every one of you there. It's so wonderful to be part of this AGM. Very, very nice. I'm just wondering about the issue of online lecturing for those who want to maybe work with other seminaries or universities. Can we exclude in-person completely because of the advantage of the online, and where there is possibility to be there in person, and some of the advantages one may have, especially meeting people person to person where there is possibility to do so. I'm enjoying what is happening now, but having missed the opportunity to be there in person, I've not met everyone I should meet, and I've not seen the environment I should have seen. And all of that is part of increasing in whatever capacity we have. And also, some people will want to go for their sabbatical. And in our context here, if you want to stay in the same environment and say you are going for sabbatical in the same environment, that may be a challenge. I don't know what board would like to have that and support it well. So while we think about the online as a viable tool of enhancing our cooperation and so on, I'm also thinking that we could give room for those who are opportune to be somewhere else and to be able to facilitate that from the office so that the database you have, you will be able to do like what Theologians Without Borders do, to be able to say, okay, you are looking for sabbatical. I'm using myself as an example. New Testament, and I want to go for sabbatical 2024, God willing. I want to be able to have a place that I could go and be there in person. So I'm just bringing that out as an example of the need to be elsewhere if the opportunity is given. So thank you very, very much for all the deliberations. Again, we are really enjoying. Thank you.
Beatrice, you can continue your sentence? Sorry, we were cut off. There you are. Is there something else that you want to just add on that point?
No, thank you very much. I was just trying to say that I believe that there are times we also need the one-on-one, person-to-person to be able to benefit more. And example, I hope that this was not cut off. I said that for some looking for sabbatical, in our context, it's not really very okay to say that I'm on sabbatical and all I can do is to be online. There is need for me to move elsewhere because our boards may not really appreciate the fact that you are still there. And of course, you yourself will really not enjoy the sabbatical if you are going to remain in the same place. So there are times that we may need to be in the place we want to be in person in order to change the environment a little bit. So that's why I think that while the online opportunity is really wonderful, there are times we may need to be elsewhere in order to, add more experience and be able to meet people person to person. That is what I was trying to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. We believe that that is an option, very important option that should be included. We are talking here about specifics. So online, person to person, face to face, or moving to that location is another option that we need to include. So, we'll look at different things that are possible. We'll look at the possibilities that are available and include them in the lecturers' exchange.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
So that we don't limit people's opportunity. If we have the funding, you have the school is willing to do something, or you have an organization. Like in my case, when I went to Stellenbosch, it wasn't Stellenbosch that was paying me, it was Langham. Langham paid me to do my, my sabbatical in, at Stellenbosch Faculty of Theology. So if you have an organization that can pay for you to go to an institution, a partner school in Africa, that can happen. Or if we have funding ourselves that are available for people to, if we say to an organization, look, we have this number of people that would like to do their sabbatical here and there, can you fund that? And they say, yes, we can do that. Why not do it? So with the opportunity, this is really part of the options.
Colleagues, I'm going to cut us short there. We can continue this at in half an hour from now. It's my privilege to welcome this morning Professor Benno van den Toren. They've been busy with the project of bibliographing and catalyzing the available resources in Africa, also written by African scholars, but he will elaborate a little bit more on that. And then also how we can link up from NetACT institutions with that. It's a free resource, it's open source. Benno, thank you for being with us this morning and taking the time off in your schedule to be with us. And we hand over to you. I think you do have share screening rights there, so you can share your screen. Thank you.
Yeah.
We hand
It's a great joy to be with you all. I hope you can hear me.
Our sound is not working this side.
I think I am unmuted.
Benno, just wait. We just quickly have a technical issue. I'll be with you now. We struggle this side with power failures, Benno. So every time that the power goes off from the grid, we go onto a generator and then we need to reset. So we apologize for that. Quite a challenge. South Africa is currently on stage 4 load shedding, and it's terrible. Okay. Benno, just speak that side.
Yeah, can I speak? Yeah.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Good. So I can start now, eh?
Yes, you may. The floor is yours.
I should say that it's a great joy to be with you all. One of the privilege of the internet is of course that we can meet over long distances. Some of you may be aware that I've lived for many years in Africa. Not, I think, in parts where where the most of you are from, because it was in French-speaking Africa, in the Central African Republic. But I should definitely say that I left a part of my heart and soul in the continent. It's great to be with you now, even though we also feel the distance. It's strange how internet works. It creates both a sense of distance and a sense of nearness. What I would like to do with you is to talk about a very specific use of the internet in theological education and research, a part that has interested me and a team with which I work for quite some time. When we talk about internet, we of course in Africa we talk about the importance of communication. We talk about the possibility of online meetings, the possibility of using the internet for teaching online as an educational environment. There are a number of systems for that. I want to speak about a very particular, namely the use of resources on the internet for teaching and research. So with resources, I mean resources on African Christianity and on African theology that can be found on the internet. And let me share my screen to make that a bit more specific. I suppose you now can see my slide, eh? So what I want to look at with you in quite a short session is to think about opportunities and challenges for using the internet for research and teaching, and then specifically the resources there in Africa. I want to think with you about specific types of resources. We need to distinguish them and challenges and opportunities related to them. And I want to introduce you to a very specific tool we have been developing with a team across the continent and in Groningen, across the continent, that's sub-Saharan Africa, and in Groningen, which is in the Netherlands. So let's think about opportunities and challenges. Of course, there is the enormous growth of the access and the use of the internet in Africa. When I worked myself in Africa, the internet was in the beginning non-existent. You would send messages through the telephone or just use ordinary letters. Then the internet arrived in the capital, but not anywhere beyond. At the moment, even students in relatively small Bible schools in smaller provincial cities can access the internet through their telephones, as long as they have a small screen on it. Second opportunity is that there is enormous growth of academic resources on the internet, both primary and secondary, both paid and free. And of course, this whole development has taken an enormous step or leap during all sorts related to all sorts of restrictions that came with the COVID pandemic, where teachers could no longer travel. Sometimes students were not even allowed to go to their institutions, and as much as possible, people moved online. And if they did not have access to libraries, for example, they really started using the internet more than before. And yet I'm aware that there are challenges of which you are more aware than I am, the scarcity of affordable and quality internet access and the tools that you needed. I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but given the enormous amount of resources, I'm going to talk about another challenge, namely the difficulty of finding these resources and the difficulty of using them well in academic research. I think it's helpful when we think about internet resources to distinguish between three types of ways we use the internet in teaching and research. And one is what we might call, what we normally technically call primary sources on African Christianity. We can study African Christianity well beyond places where we are, now even from the context of our living room, by seeing African Christianity alive and well on the internet. So this is not necessarily African theology, but it's African Christianity. But in studying African Christianity, we of course also study African theology, because a lot of the theology in Africa and in other places, in my country it's the same, is not necessarily written down, it is lived. It's lived by communities. And if it's spoken, it's not only spoken by professors, it's spoken by religious leaders that we find on the internet, that have their talks on YouTube. And this is, of course, a growing part of Christianity in Africa. It's not equally true for all forms of Christianity in Africa, but particularly, for example, the newer Pentecostal movements make an impressive use of the internet and can be studied as such. And yet I find that when I use the internet in this way to have my students study African Christianity, they really need some training how to do that well. They need to know where to find resources, how to interpret them. Are sources actually manipulated? Are they edited? What do they tell about a community? How are they used as primary resources? And how do you, for example, store them? Because some parts of the internet are fairly stable. So you just put a footnote there and you say, actually, I found this information on this website. Other parts of the internet change constantly. How do I use that for research? To give just one example, I had a master's student who was interested in prayer in the context of Africa. And of course, there's much of prayer you cannot study, but even prayer has moved online. Think of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, which on their website has a prayer wall, which constantly changes because members of the church will on the internet present their prayers to the general overseer or to the wife of the general overseer, and will ask to pray with them. And we can actually on the internet see one aspect of prayer within African Christian communities and the theology implicit in that. Then there are also secondary sources online, of which we maybe are more used. That is, more and more we see that theologians publish online. Many journals that used to exist only in paper versions are now online. And what is a concurrent development is that people not only move online, but we find more and more journals, and Africa is a bit ahead of other parts of the world, I think, in that choose for open access publishing, that actually say there's a lot of public resources going into theological research and education, or church resources from churches. We should not keep the results of this research behind a paywall. We should share them through open access. And I think we also need to be aware here that in a certain sense, online publishing is very much dominated by the West still. The West controls the biggest search machines. The West controls also platforms like Atla. And yet, on the other hand, there are also parts of the internet which are much more democratic. Many African theology teachers and researchers use platforms like Academia Edu, ResearchGate.net, on which they can publish their own papers. And yet again, we need to help students evaluate these sources well, because in the same movement that the internet is much more accessible and it's much easier now to publish your material online, it becomes more important to distinguish actually what is of what sort of quality and what is of lesser quality, so that students know what to quote, what to refer to, or what to evaluate critically from what perspectives. When research could only be published in print, there was always a bit of a high bar before you could be published, because no one would put something in print that didn't have at least some value. Now a bachelor student can even put their academic papers online that got a low grade, but if you're on Academia Edu, you can do that. And we need students and researchers to understand the difference and to be able to evaluate the quality on the web. A third group of materials that we can find online are archives. This is still relatively little developed. Most archives are still in paper, but I do think that here would also be more possibilities for particularly Africa, where archives often are inaccessible. Quite a number of the archives related to Christianity in Africa can be found in the West, for example, in old mission institutions. And the internet sometimes is used as an opportunity to make these archives more widely accessible. Think of just one example: Edward Wilmot Blyden, historical figure, West Africa, 19th century, both theologian and statesman. And actually quite a lot of his material can be found for free on the internet. One of the things we've actually discovered in thinking about this is that although there is an enormous move towards the use of the internet in publishing, in teaching, both students and researchers and teachers find it often very hard to find these resources and to use them appropriately. Very often it's the case that when people prepare courses or when students prepare papers on a topic, they may use the internet, but they may merely limit themselves to a small range of sources. For example, they know Google Scholar. Many students know Google Scholar. They may use Wikipedia, but they're not aware of all the other resources are there, and they might not necessarily be aware of how to educate, how to use them well in research and in teaching. In order to really help with that, we have developed a website, or to be more honest, we're in the process of developing a website which is called African Theology Worldwide. I don't know whether you have already encountered this website. It's live for about 1.5 years now, but we have been developing it for 3 years now. It's a website that has been made possible by some grants that is currently developed in Groningen at the Protestant Theological University. but that is overseen by an editorial board in which all what we call 5 regions of Africa are represented. And with the 5 regions in Africa, we mean 2 Francophone regions and 3 Anglophone regions. So the chair, the Francophone chair of the editorial board is Isiaka Koulibaly from Abidjan, and the Anglophone chair of the editorial board is Kwabena Asamoah Gyatou from Ghana. So far, the website only exists in English, but we are hoping to put the French site live within a couple of months. One of the things that's specific about this website is that there are many websites available that try to make material available for teaching and research in Africa, but they only put their own material on there. And if you know where to find them, there's lots of material. Some journals are, for example, online. Some older journals are put online so that people can use them. There are research institutions that put material online, etc. But our experience is, I said, that many students do not know how to use them well and do not know how to find them. And that is what this website tries to remedy. And let me just point you to a couple of features. An important feature is the bibliography. So we have what we call the collaborative bibliography of African theology, in which we present bibliographies around all sorts of main themes and persons in African theology. Let me just point to one of the recent bibliographies on disability that can be found here. It's currently opening. We discovered, for example, we've been working on this for the last weeks, motivated by Nico Mostert, and we discovered that there were close to 100 resources we could find on African disability theology. And if you would be only able to read English, you can only access what is freely accessible. You would still find around 33 resources. Can you imagine what this means? This means that if you want to do a class on disability theology or a couple of sessions on disability theology, you might be in a place where there is virtually no library or definitely not elaborate enough to have a material on this topic, or for someone writing a paper or a thesis, but there is sufficient online material freely available to do some significant research or to prepare some classes in the area. So that's what we have done on quite a number of topics, and this is growing. A second part of the website is what we call, let me just find the main website, what we call the Encyclopedia of Theology. This is actually a bibliographical encyclopedia that is still in development, where now for 3 topics you find bibliographical articles that introduce the main material on in African theology about these themes. We would like to grow this, but these are quite long articles that often have specific topics. Think about the topic of biblical hermeneutics, and under all subtopics you find, for example, textbooks. You find hermeneutics in African independent churches. Under every topic you find an introduction to the topic and introduction to specific titles that are important for the study of African theology in this matter. Thirdly, what is important is the research guide. The research guide gives articles that help students and researchers with ideas about how to use the internet, how to evaluate what you find on the internet, also in development. A fourth important section is the internet portal. The internet portal simply points you to all sorts of websites that are important on African theology. And beyond that, we have a blog, we have news. Those are sort of important to keep communication lively. What is important to know is that access of this website is free, yet people can sign up. We have quite a number of people who have signed up. Those will receive newsletters sometime, but more importantly, they can have all the articles download PDF versions. So that would be really helpful to get the material in your own computer in a much more accessible way. They can download actually complete bibliographies if you use bibliographical software such as Zotero. And they can also paste comments and say, actually, I would like you to add this, this item in the bibliography. I would like a bibliography on this topic. Let me ask one final question, or that may be a question that's not a final question, my first question to you. What would be possibilities to collaborate with you? Because this is a website that tries to be of service to theological institutions, students, and researchers in Africa. So people can sign up. People can come up with ideas. They can present ideas for bibliographies, for bibliographical articles, for authors whom we might choose. So those are very important contributions. And particularly, for example, if you as an institution say, actually, we would like to start a conference on a topic, or a new course on a topic, or an old course, we need to rethink the course. We would love to know what is available there. Send us a message and we can see whether we can create a bibliography for you, or whether we have one. And if we have bibliographies, we would love to find the material that is not yet on there, particularly locally produced materials, so that this becomes a website that is not just representative of what is already available in the larger research search machines, but that that really helps the grassroots theology and the value of it become visible. Let me stop here and hear your comments. I don't know whether anyone is speaking in the main room, but I'm unable to hear it.
When we're in the Netherlands, what is the possibility of that we create sort of an online program, online course that we can host from NetACT side on how to do internet research?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility that we can
that
explore
would be a
this
possibility.
collaboration?
So we are so far producing a number of articles on the use of the internet in research. So if you look at the guide section, a shorter contribution on the importance of liturgy and therefore the importance of online resources, there is a longer article on that. And we quite open to think about the possibility to create something like a number of sessions that people could almost include in a methodology course. You know, you have your methodology courses on how to study, particularly at master's level, sometimes already on bachelor level. And you could think, you know, these methodology courses go much wider. They're also about how you read books, how you evaluate them, how you write texts. But you could imagine a couple of sessions there on how to use the internet in your study and research. And I think we would quite happily work with you. And I would be, we would be then interested in, for you, in order to be able to integrate this in your methodology classes, how would you do that? Let me already give one example of what we have done in this respect. I'm here again. This is again the guide section of our website. And you see that on this topic of local theologies on the World Wide Web. So this is about using the World Wide Web to study African theology. We have an article on that written by two people of our team, Bosco Bangura from Sierra Leone and myself. And you can actually download that article in PDF if you are if you've signed up to the website. Otherwise, you or students can read it online. But linked with that, we have also created learning exercises. So these are very easy to use in methodology in a class in methodology, where actually you do not just have a text that students can read, but they're actually exercises that students can prepare at home or in the class, and that you can discuss together. It's about using primary resources, using secondary resources, and the idea is that we make more of those lessons to deepen this sort of more general approach. So if we say use the internet for the study of African theology, and then we have a couple of exercises to help students actually try it out, that you can merely include in your methodology class if that's helpful for you.
Thank you, colleagues. Questions? Fraser, we have the microphone ready there. Remarks? We've got one here. Maybe just introduce yourself, as Benno does not know all of you. So just give your name and your institution where you're from, and then the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am Simbarashe Mnamati from Mare Theological College in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And I'm the principal there. I just want to thank you very much for this presentation and the opportunity. When you were presenting, I already opened the website and tried to sign up, and I was able to do it. It's very easy, and I was almost opening some of the documents. So I think this is an opportunity where our students and also our staff are going to benefit if we use it. Thank you very much.
It's good to hear. And you have opened it possibly on your phone. That's important. We've made the whole website so that it can be opened on small screens, and students are able to use it on a telephone.
Yeah, I forgot actually to reiterate that as well. They work very hard on, because we understand and know that in Africa, most of our students, their online presence is via mobile data. It's not via, so yes, that's exactly what you did now. And it fits how they designed it fits onto the screen, as Benno was saying, so you can access it on mobile data and mobile phones.
Yeah. That's also why you find relatively little pictures on the website. Yeah.
I think the answer question about partnership. Yeah. I mean, this is, by the way, thank you so much for this presentation. From what you have done, I want to assure you that I'm already filling the form to be a member.
Yeah.
So our network, this is what the kind of, this, I mean, is one of the kind of things we want And we are seeing this as really a privilege for us to partner with you. We are going to disseminate this information to all our institutions. I know Nico must have told you that we have a membership of 54 institutions across the continent.
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity. The other thing is this, you are talking about African theology, but we also have the African public theology. So we would like you to include that there. That would be part of our partnership.
Yeah. We're actually working on a bibliographical article at the moment on African public theology. So we're working on that because that's an important part indeed of African theology. Yeah.
Thank you, colleagues. Any more comments? Benno, thank you from us.
Can I ask
we are
one
letting
question
you go.
to the
It's
public,
half an
actually,
hour from your time.
Nico?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but can I ask one question of the room again?
Yes, please. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's we have this online version that you can find on the internet. We've also been working on a more limited version with less capacity, but with some of the main information that people can download and put on library computers that students can also access when there is no link with the internet. When the links with the internet is broken, they would still be able to see the bibliographies and the bibliographical articles and the guide articles. They would not be able to see the portal items because there's no use if you cannot access the internet. We are not entirely certain with whether we will continue to develop this feature, a feature of a version of the information that can be downloaded on library computers, but that can be used if it's not live. For those of you who, in the context where you are, would this be a valuable feature, or will it just remain on the screens because students will still mainly use it when they're online?
Colleagues, can we hear? Quickly, some feedback. I know, Muricha, you battle also with online community, with online connectivity. Malawi, it's got some challenges with that. Nigeria's got challenges with that. Zimbabwe, you guys has got challenges with that. Also in Cameroon. Maggie, just a response here from Maggie.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to say that downloaded one would be more convenient for students who have limited data. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some more remarks from the colleagues, Elaine?
Thank you very much, Benno. And yes, I agree totally with Maggie. Many of those students are residential, but they do not have internet connections at home. So they do have Wi-Fi, or they do have connectivity while they're on campus. But of course, a lot of the work takes place at home, and therefore a downloadable form of search form or bibliography will be most helpful.
Sorry, that's made me clarify. I think, Benno, you're maybe talking about something that's only available on campus, not for students to copy onto their own devices. Is that right?
For now, we've thought about something that is available on campus, so on library computers. For that feature, we have not yet thought about whether it could be downloadable on computers. We would need to think about that. And I would need to see our website developer whether that would be a complex development. Yeah, but I understand the logic of that.
Yeah. Thank you, colleagues. Any more questions to Benno? Benno, thank you so much. We have two proposals here that we will discuss now. And the first one, I want to just read it to you. The board expresses sincere appreciation to the PTU for this project and reiterate its importance for research in Africa. And the second one is the board understands that the project is dependent on the support of partners, and hence the board of NetACT appeal to the partners of the PTU to keep this project resourced, as it is a crucial tool for theological research in Africa. If the board approves this, I will send it through to you to help you, referring to our discussion. And I just want to say, I did speak to the other partners, which I saw after the coffee with you, so that we keep you guys online and we keep you resourced. So we will gladly send this through to you so that we strengthen your hand on that side to keep the website going.
Thank you. We would really appreciate that. And I think I've already expressed to some of you before that we would love to collaborate as much as possible, because there is so much need, and there are that we should avoid doing the same thing, but really constantly point to each other where our partners are stronger than us, and we really try to do the work in a niche that we're good at, collaborating with others as much as possible.
Thank you, Benno.
Thank you.
God bless on your work that side, and from NetACT side, God bless. Colleagues, we are, okay, I just read that resolution. Is that, can we just have a vote on that, Chair?
Yeah, please. Can we have somebody recommended that we do what he has outlined for us and seconded? Okay. And all right. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, colleagues. It's adopted then. Colleagues, let's just go back then on our agenda. We were at the lecturer exchange. And I just want to let us quickly then just the following resolution. And it will read as follows: the resolution, the proposed the changes to the constitution will bring about that members are responsible to arrange lecture exchange among themselves. Number two, the board reiterates that members should consider the various options that are available to facilitate lecture exchange via online platforms. Then three, the board urges its members to update their faculty CVs with the office and request that a page be created on the NIP where these can be viewed by members behind a secure login option. As we explained, we cannot get that information just out due to clauses. And the fourth one is the board's proposed that members also make use of the services of Theologians Without Borders. And then we will include, I quickly visited the website, it's there. So it's operational. Thank you, Nathan, for that. And that they can also access that. Can we adopt that one, please? Oh, the face-to-face one. I will just include one that face-to-face is also an option. Yeah, it's part of the options. Thank you, colleagues. I think that's sort of. What is the best one? The proposed changes to the constitution will bring about that members are responsible to arrange lecturer exchange among themselves. I think what needs to be added here is with the support of the office, that we will help in that regard, but they need to initiate it themselves. We are not initiating. But is that addition good? Okay. Is that good, Chair?
Yes. Yeah.
I will just add that for the office part as well into it. Thank you, Chair. Then we move on to scholarships. If we can conclude that before lunch, that would be great. We have 15, almost 20 minutes up next. Scholarships, that's 3.6 for our colleagues, and it will be on page 13. May I proceed, Chair? Yes. Colleagues, in the past, most of the scholarships or the requests or okay, let me start there. The money that was sourced for scholarships was mainly focused for scholarships to study at Stellenbosch University. Now, again, as Len and Maggie said earlier in our conversation today, when we were a small organization or a small network for 10 or 15 institutions, it was easy to source scholarships, And it was also easy to use that scholarships to get students to study at Stellenbosch University. Hence, also then the move then to get the house, so the students were accommodated there. At that time, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, many of our institutions were not accredited to do masters and PhDs, to do PhDs. It was just not up on the radar. But since then, most of your institutions are accredited to do masters and PhD studies. So in your own right, you are institutions that can offer PhDs and master programs. So the question that is the monies that are sort of coming in or sourced for scholarships, at this moment it's only for Stellenbosch, and we from the EXCO side feel it's a little bit unfair that only one university gets that, gets all that monies, or that students are going that side specifically on that scholarships. So the resolution there is that the board discuss scholarships and advise if it is still a priority for the network. If so, a workable way forward needs to be discussed that benefits all the institutions in the network. The proposal or the advice that we would like to give from the offices is, okay, the other problem that arose in the past is students will write directly to the office, and then the office needs to decide who gets a who gets a scholarship and who not. It's an unbearable situation. The office cannot do that, because then others are angry, they didn't get a scholarship, and the other institutions are angry because their student wasn't accepted. We can't take that responsibilities anymore. There needs to be transparency, because it's not our money to dish out or whatever. Currently, there's not much money in that fund. It's around about 150,000, 160,000 rands, which is still available there.
That's about £8,000 for those who don't work in rand.
Okay, £8,000. Okay, so the question is, and then we got this the offer from Barnabas, which I will include it in this resolution, that they offer the scholarships for 2023. That's for next year. From our side, the proposal will be, if scholarships comes up, that we just distribute that options for scholarships to everybody. So if Langham, say for instance, send out a communique about scholarships, that we just send, that the office just becomes a distribution house for information about scholarships, and not so much finding scholarships for institutions. It's these institutions themselves that needs to find scholarships. If we have conversations globally with partners and they want to offer scholarships, what we will do is we will just send that information through to everybody. And your student can apply, and they can also use the scholarship for the university of their choice. So if they do want to go to Kenya to do a PhD in Kenya, or they do want to go to Malawi for a PhD, that's up to the student to do that, for the institutions to organize that. It's not an office function, but we just distribute information about scholarships, available scholarships. We send that out and we leave it in the hands of the members to do that. That's, for us, is a more transparent way to deal with it. Sorry, Stellenbosch University, we know that in the past you guys have had lots of benefits from that. So it's not personal. It's just that I think we unlock the door of the office. The next problem is this 170,000. The problem is getting monies out of South Africa is also becoming an issue. Our Reserve Bank is also really getting tight on monies. So our suggestion would be that if there is really a need at the student that is currently at Stellenbosch, that Stellenbosch University can speak to us, and that we help with the physical needs of the students for that 160,000 that's remaining there. Many of the students they're studying is from your countries, or from NetACT countries or NetACT institutions, and that we use that money specifically for food. Students get problems here. They are stuck there. Stellenbosch has got the house. It's in our house, so it's part of the ministry of NetACT to the students there at Stellenbosch University. But that we then become just to funnel through the scholarships. But as Chair, it's open for discussion.
Yes. Okay, we have hands. Okay. The first. You can give it to Maggie. Then we have three.
Thank
Maybe
you.
online people, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with the proposal to share the opportunities to everyone so that the students can choose. Because some of the students would want to come to our institutions. With the previous setup, our institutions could not directly benefit because the students had to go to X university only if they had access to the scholarship. So I like the proposal now. Also, I wanted to ask, what happened to our relationship with the World Communion of Reformed Churches? Because they also had a scholarship for women. What happened with that? Thank you.
Chair, if I can just come in, for the last 4 years, there was dead silence from the, and then Maggie, you will remember you and Jurgens were at a meeting, and that previous, yes, in that meeting you were terribly wrong, because the previous General Secretary for the World Communion of Reformed Churches was not very talkative about Africa. You remember that bad experience you and Jurgens had. I met at the WCC. I met up again. There's new leadership. Hans Lessing and Vinay Peacock, Philip Vinay Peacock from India. They are now the steering committee of the Reformed Communion of Reformed Churches. So there's not at this moment the general secretary. They just man the office together. There's a third guy, lady. So what we will do, there's a consultation which they planned for the 4th to the 9th of December in Accra. Yes, so, but then I was already on their case because nowhere we know anything about that. It was never, nothing was sent out anywhere. If I wasn't at that WCC meeting and met up with them, we wouldn't even have known about that. So I took them on about that, so I'm waiting for that. So as soon as we get invitations, I will send it out to everybody. I will go from my Free State office side, so it's not a NetACT expense. I will make sure that I am attending that because it's also part of the ecumenical work of my church. So our ecumenical committee recommended that I will go. So any of you would like to attend that is welcome. I will follow that up, what is happening to that scholarship, because it's dead silence for the last 4 years. Since that meeting you had, it was dead silence. There's nothing happening. Sorry.
A quick question before the other hands. Is that the same place where Omar Ongunta is there right now?
Yes, he's not the chair.
So that's what I'm saying. If he has been to be part of NetACT, he's been happened to be one of the chairs of NetACT before, then we should be able to benefit and actually hold him accountable. He's been part of NetACT. Yeah.
Good. I suspect what is happening. Our theory, myself and our general secretary in the church's theory is I think the WCRC finds themselves a little bit in financial troubles. So there's not money for meetings in the regions. So, but yeah, that's our suspicion. We do not know, but we think that's happening. So it's important that we maybe attend that meeting in Accra to find out what is happening in Africa. Nathan, you're right, because it's our colleagues who are there, but nothing is happening at the moment, so we need to find out.
Okay. So we have actually his wife benefited from that scholarship.
So now he has to pay back.
In South Africa, it's called black tax.
Okay.
Yes. Once you get to university, then you have to pay back the family. It's referred to as black tax.
I agree with the policy that is being developed now, suggested now on scholarships. But I want to think that the task is overwhelming on the office. It is for that reason that I would still want to emphasize on the need, as the ESCO is meeting, let them really consider putting in place some departments that can shock some of these responsibilities, in which case the office simply just coordinate the information. For example, if there were a department for scholarships and the rest, now the department will report to executive director, or the executive director will, it's just like, let me take this analogy of Patrick about general, colonel, and major. As of now, we have generals who at the same point, we expect the same generals to do the work of the colonel. We're still expecting the same generals to do the work of the majors, which for me is overwhelming. So our recommendation to the ESCO is that they should actually consider.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to say much, but some aspects of my point have been said by Dr. Maki, to say the office is there to be a conduit of information. If they get scholarship information, they just relay it to the institutions. Then if people are interested, then they get information from that. Then they apply. It needs not to be the duty of the office to say this one. Yes. Even us as institutions, we can also look for scholarships on our own. Then if these scholarships want more people, we relay the message to the office to say, we have found this scholarship. Maybe some institutions might have people who can fit in the scholarship. So it's not it needs not to be the task of the office to run around and do this. Of course, the department aspect, maybe it can be considered, but we need not to put everything on your shoulders. You are going to fall down. Thank you very much.
Chair, while agreeing to such modalities, that I think the approach of simply relaying that information to institution members, I still feel like there is something we need to look at seriously with regard to specifically for the Barnabas funding, as was mentioned. We had the same information, I think, in 2019 in Kenya. And I remember one of the institutions, the candidates who applied is our institution in Malawi. And this time, the information is again related to member institutions for the same funding for 2023. But I feel like there is a gap somewhere. If that information is related to member institutions and the candidates apply, there are two things that are happening. As I'm looking at two issues as a challenge. One, after applying, what next? Who coordinates either the admissions to scholarship to those universities? The second is that for this year, candidates from our institutions have at least recognized that there is a challenge in the website that was given. While trying to go through that website, trying to apply, no one has been successful. So I think we need to give, as a network, we need to give specific directions so that whenever students are willing to do that, I think they should, at least for any provision, at least if you have a candidate, that's better. But for all this period, I think we have not been successful. Chair, I think we need to give specific directions on that one.
Okay, I think before any other person, can we respond to that quickly? You see, the issue here is what he talked about. Fraser talked about communication. We didn't have that information. We didn't know that you were facing difficulty. Did we? Yeah. I mean, he is talking about there was this beautiful proposal from Barnabas Fund then, but Barnabas Aid now, you know, that students can apply for scholarship. But then a website was given that is not functional. I mean, cannot be accessed by those who are trying to do it. So what we are saying to, as a solution to that, this time around, let the information be passed again. When you get the information, any difficulty you have, let the office know. That's one. Secondly, if you have people applying, let us also have that data because it helps us, because it's partnership. So let's there be, you know, synergy in our communication. That helps us. If we have the information, we'll see where we can help you. Because we have a link with Barnabas, you know, executive. We can, you know, find a way of helping you. Yes. Do we continue? Is it a follow-up to that?
Yes, it's a follow-up. Chair, I wanted to say we shouldn't confuse. I think the call from Barnabas back then was not for scholarship. Okay. If they referred to funding students, it was for specific studies, yes, not ordinary scholarships. Yes. So we should make it clear, even this time around, even they have given us the opportunity. Of course, he missed that presentation from Barnabas. Maybe he needs to be shared that information. They said, follow through this, look at the list, look at everything. If you look at it and you communicate within the next 2 weeks, we will be able to help. But they gave clear direction on the areas they are interested in. So I think we shouldn't be confusing the information. I don't recall them offering free scholarship for study. I know they mentioned those who were interested to go and study on Islam. And those could not necessarily be those who are already our students. Because some of us, we don't have that type of study. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, my focus is on the specified areas of study. It's not about the general scholarship. Okay. Yeah, even
still on this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Even in the past, the Barnabas emphasized that it's studies in Islam. Even in this time, they have also communicated studies in Islam. That's the thing that I'm trying to raise, that we have challenges in that as well.
May I use this time to also give us information, which we can also pass? You know, Langham gives scholarship for PhD in theology, in the area of theology, in the area of biblical studies. But they have age limit also. And then Overseas Council is also giving scholarship, but mainly to African women. There's a vast interest in that area. We need to raise up that standard. So that is available. Scholar leaders is also giving scholarships. You know, but people need to go to that. I mean, we will pass the information around so that you have that. You can go. I mean, students that want to access that will go and see whether they have met the requirement for age, the area of study, but it has to be at the PhD level. It has to be at the PhD level, not undergraduate. I mean, not masters, undergraduate or masters. So we will put that as part of the information we're going to pass to our institutions.
Chair, we need to, okay, Ryan, and then 2 answers.
Okay.
No more?
I just want to, thank you, Chair. Make sure I understand correctly the situation, that it raises one question. The scholarship fund, if I heard the executive director correctly, was initially set up or used historically to fund probably lecturers in NetACT institutions to pursue advanced studies, but it was restricted to Stellenbosch. So that was, it sounds like a restriction from the donor, that it was to be used for Stellenbosch. And then one of the challenges that I heard is that there's many other institutions that are offering those advanced degrees. Either we can't use the fund for scholarships in those other institutions because of this restriction to Stellenbosch, or because it's really hard to get the money out of South Africa. And then the scholarship was run through the office. So the money comes in, it's put into this account, and the office is then deciding who the recipients are, and that's more than the office can do. So what I hear is a proposal that, like the list of organizations that the chair has mentioned, the office would then be a conduit just of information. These are the scholarships available. If a lecturer in your institution or a graduate of your institution is seeking advanced studies, you can access through the website if we have it there, or through the email channels and newsletter. These are places you could go, but then it's between you and Langham. It's between you and overseas. Yet there's a balance of actual money in the bank at NetACT. And so the proposal, as I hear it, is an outflow of that balance to be used for students at Stellenbosch, or if the house has expenses. And so the plan is then to decline that balance. And when the balance is done, the account is closed, NetACT no longer handles scholarship money. So my question is, what about the inflow? If money, it was given, or is there still some donor that has been giving money into the account? And I just think it's really, unless the money is specifically for scholarships, is there a way that we could use that money for another purpose within NetACT with the donor? I mean, if somebody's willing to give money, I'd hate to say we don't need it anymore. Or is it to say, if you're willing to scholarship students at Stellenbosch, we will convey your information, and we will then ask the students to apply directly to you, whoever this donor is, but we're stepping out of it. But we talked about the outflow from the account. I just don't know if there's been an inflow, and if we're then cutting off money coming into NetACT, which seems like we don't really want to do that if we can keep the money. So.
Very good question and very good remarks. That is true. On this stage, there is only one donor who gives monthly a certain amount. So if we take this decision, we have to talk with them and say, okay, that is the situation now. Will they be willing to give for something else for them?
Chair, that's what I sort of minuted here. Is there some other ones, some other comments before I do the proposals? Because Ryan, you described it accurately, just in short. So we will act in as the conduit. Yeah, the last, it's like 500 rands a month, I think, that's coming in. Not even. No, it's more.
5,500.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's.
It's a significant. Okay, sorry about that then. The proposal is that we use that money then to specifically fund that students. If the donor is fine with that we use it in that regard to fund students who's got struggles there, then we can still continue with that. But that's sort of, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I actually wanted to comment after my brother at the back there on the issue of scholarships, that we as institutions have the responsibility to source such. My only addition to what he has said would be that since as a network we take it is one of our objectives to see that we develop our institutions in terms of scholarships. Maybe it's a good idea that if after sourcing the scholarship as Morija, then we'll alert the office to know that we have gotten this scholarship from so and so in this type of specifications, because NetACT as a network also carries the responsibility of encouraging even our supporters to say, it is not just us you help us as an institution. You have actually helped a network of 54 institutions, because the results that will be here, that will be received here, will also be helpful to those other institutions. I think it would work. Again, it says to the other members of the network, or to the office and other members of the network, we can also have opportunities, but also it also says it helps so that we don't, one institution doesn't take all the opportunities that arise. I think I'm just saying, I'll alert the office, let us inform the office of all the successes that we have regarding the scholarships.
Colleagues, can I just read to you the resolution? Then the board advises that the office will be an information center or a conduit for scholarships, and will funnel scholarships, available scholarships, through to all member institutions. Ryan, that's, if I catch you correctly. The remaining funds in the scholarship account will be used to help needy students residing at Benno South House who face living cost challenges, and current donors will be contacted in this regard to find out if they're okay with that. And the third one is the board urges members to take advantage of the offer of Barnabas Aid, who offer 15 scholarships for master students for 2023 enrollment in their master's program. Because that's kind of an urgent matter. So, and I would like, even here, you guys can go back immediately. As I spoke to Patrick about it yesterday, it is, they would like, what they would like is if that students, if they do complete the master's degree, it will help your institution maybe to bring in a curriculum, or in your curriculum, maybe a course or a specific section on Islamic studies. So I think if you as an institution motivate the students' eligibility for this grant, I think they will help you guys. So take advantage of this. You can get one faculty member that specifically focuses on this upon their return. And I think because they are really in need now, I think this might be very good scholarships. It might cover a lot of questions. The unfortunate thing is this is now not a scholarship that you can use in your own facility. This, I think it will be in the program, Manirash, that will be in your program at University of Pretoria. So it is, this scholarship is not open. This is a very close scholarship for University of Pretoria for a specific program. Okay. Colleagues, thank you. Any questions, and we can break for lunch? Yes, yeah. Who's leaving after lunch? Right, Manirash, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will have lunch with you, then I will have to leave. There's two things. First of all, just to say thank you through the chair to my brothers and my sisters for making yesterday a successful day. I just got an email from the Dean as well, congratulating everybody on the wonderful privilege to have had you there to share this wonderful occasion. It's an historical occasion in our faculty, in our department. And just to say to you, thank you for making the time in the agenda on this, for this purpose. So a real thank you to you. And then lastly, through the chair, my brother has been trying for 3 days to talk to me, and it's so difficult. Our program is so tight that we're supposed to be networking as well, and we don't get the chance to do that. So I need to sit down with my brother now lunchtime and have a chat. But can we in future have a time for networking? You know, at least 1 hour a day free just to network. We don't have that. And I feel so bad that I cannot meet with my other brothers, for example, to talk about these things. I'm not able to network. I think 7.2 on the agenda, it maybe needs to be added to there. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everybody.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we give you all the praise and glory for your presence with us in this day, for the work that we could accomplish and the discussions we could have, for the opportunities that lie before us, and for the knowledge of your provision in the face of the challenges that we face as institutions and as a network. We thank you for your goodness to us and your goodness made known even in the food that is being prepared for us. We pray that you would bless our bodies with it, even as we bless you for providing this food, that you would strengthen us as we continue in our meeting, as we fellowship with one another, as we engage in conversation and community over this meal. We trust that we will sense your presence in and through one another, that you will continue to lead us by your Spirit in the work that we have even in the remainder of this day. In Christ we pray. Amen.